Hello, welcome to my pillbox. If you don't have a pillbox in your backyard, I suggest you get one. It's a good thing to have a pillbox on your hilltop in the backyard. Either way, this pillbox is worth 4 IPCs, and I've got to defend it so that I can spend them on my special units, because that's the most versatile unit in the pack. Here they come. Victory! We're back in the queue where we're safe for the moment, but I want to go back on the last video I did about the 3 expansions for the Global War game. I had made some cards for the Special Operations expansion set, and one card for each one of the Special Operations units, the commandos, the Marines, and all that, to help make it easier to use that expansion. And I got some feedback on a chat, not necessarily on the comment section, from some guys that thought the card idea was an interesting twist here, interesting addition. And Stephen from Moffett Field said, "Hey, why don't you do that for diplomacy?" And he brought up a game that I think is called Diplomacy and various things. So I thought, why not? I'll go ahead and make a diplomacy card deck. And we've got all sorts of different modifiers, some good cards, some bad cards, and we're going to play that with the next game that we use the diplomacy expansion in. And we will add these in to spice up all the diplomacy rolls, and we'll see how that goes. But I thought I would interject that as it didn't need to be its own video, but we'll follow up these cards with some diplomacy cards, and we'll play that. And like I said, I think we'll have a good time with that. In the beginning, there was very few units. There was a carrier, a transport, a battleship, and a sub on the seas. In the skies, there was a bomber and a fighter. On land, a tank and an infantry. The tank was 5 IPCs. The infantry was 3. And then someone had a great idea. The power of 4 IPCs. Why do I say the power of 4 IPCs? Because the infantryman was quite useless, other than a stack for defense. But for 4 IPCs, a new unit was introduced. The artillery, with an attack of 2, a defense of 2. But wait, paired with an infantry, now the infantry became useful on the attack. Later was added the mechanized infantry, which still attacked at 1, but when paired with the artillery, attacked at 2. Those are your standard out-of-box units for 4 IPCs. They did raise the tank value to 6. But out of box, those are your choices. The rest of this video is more about house rules, other games that have added 4 IPC units, and their better value. Probably, in my mind, the most valuable unit because it's the most versatile unit. Sure, you can get others that have much higher attacks and defense, but for the 4 IPC value, it just can't be beat. Such as, and however you want to define these, elite infantry, Marines, commandos, paratroopers, mountain infantry, you name it. Defend at 2, attack at 2. Cost of 4 IPCs. Another unit that's been added, the cavalry. Some have an attack at 2. Well, I think actually the 2 different places I've seen them in games, they both have attacked at 2. The defense at 2 on one game, and I believe in Sired BBR game, they have it defending at a 1, which is probably accurate. Kind of hard to defend. I guess if you dismounted, maybe you defended at a 2, maybe not, I don't know. So you could go either way. It is a house rule. It is in some versions of the game, so you still need to take that into account. The mechanized infantry, which is another house rule, as opposed to the out of box, will have it attack at a 2 and defend at a 2 without the aid of artillery. So they can go follow the tanks, they can attack at 2, defend at 2, based off the better equipment, the half tracks, the heavier firepower that they bring, as opposed to, say, your motorized infantry, which will still just attack at 1 and defend at 2 like a normal infantry. The only bonus there is they do get to move 2. Why would you buy this over that? You probably wouldn't. Not in the same game. It's just an option, what works best for you. Maybe you don't like this mechanized infantry being at an attack of 2. Well, that's okay. It's a house rule. Do it the way you want to do it. Next up is a defensive unit. And these are some units. I actually did a video probably 2018, somewhere at the end of that, when I was thinking of starting the channel. I shot a test video. I did the French units the next year in 2019. I've already remastered that one and put it out. If you want to call it remastered, I just basically redid the voiceover. And I'll probably do the same on this as long as I can find all the videos that I took doing the anti-tank gun. And basically what I did was I cut the bases off infantry and mounted them to artillery pieces, specifying with that round base under them that it is an anti-tank gun. And this one is a medal from GHQ, I believe, and it's an 88. I've got it on a round infantry base. So these are my anti-tank guns for 4 IPCs for defense, with an attack of 1 because you can't really roll it into an attack, but a defense of 3 because you set it up in your ambush positions, thereby giving you a defensive unit. There are on several of the AAA, I can't think of the name of the games. They got your basic games, but they have some other games like World at War. Is it World at War? World at War? I think it is. Either way, they have some units that are called defense, and they look like anti-tank guns. The problem with that is it doesn't attack. Not that that's a problem, but it defends at 3. The problem is in that AAA version, it costs 2 IPCs. So as you can imagine, that gets spammed into oblivion. You know, for defense, I mean, you wouldn't buy infantry, you'd just buy these non-stop. So it I think that kind of ruins that game, being a 2 IPC unit. Another house rule that I haven't seen in too many places, we've used it here, is the recon units. And we have the land, which basically it's the armored cars, and that represents all the different types of recon units that would be on land. And then we're use the biplanes for on the ocean. And we've used it as you get to re-roll a dice. We've used it where you get to add 1, you know, a +1 to an attack or defense of a unit. But I think where we've landed, what we like the best is it'll give 1 land unit or 1 sea or air unit in a naval battle a +1, or not a +1, a first strike capability. So that unit, having the reconnaissance, gets the advantage of a first strike. So if you would pair that up with a tank, you know, you would get a first strike roll on that tank. Same with the air or the ships in a naval battle. Now we do limit the use of this to 1 per battle, so that your board isn't flooded with, you know, recon units, you know, and too many first strikes. That would be too much. It seems to work pretty good for us. The last item, and this really depends on your tank value, you know, because at 4 IPCs, maybe this is a little too much for the assault guns, tank destroyers, so to speak. Before I go any further, I don't know if you can, if that's focusing in or not. It's probably getting blurry. That is an elephant 3D piece that came in a shipment from HBG, and they had a Christmas sale where if you spent $30, they sent you some elephant tanks that were 3D pieces, and they were really cool. I spray painted it black so it'll match the other Germans. Now that leads me up to think, well, do we need to make a heavy assault gun class, you know, for more IPCs and some higher values? I don't know about that. But the way we use them for 4 IPCs, and basically that's with the tanks being at 5. I think if you're going to have your tanks at 6, then this probably needs to be at 5. So this is kind of a gray area based off the house rules that you want to use. But it would attack at a 3, defend at a 2. I have these dice up. These are 12-sided dice. The new Global War version 3 rules has added tank destroyers, and they've gone the opposite version. We'll be attacking at a 3, defending at a 4. It does cost 4 IPCs on their chart that I looked at, unless that's going to change. They give the assault gun, the tank destroyer, however you want to define that class, as a target select. So it's not a first strike, but on a 1 to a 3 roll, this would get to choose an enemy tank, obviously, or vehicle. I guess if they only had mechanized infantry, you could choose that. So if you're getting a hit on the attack, well, obviously you're going to choose what you're going to pick out of the pile. So there's a pretty good advantage there if you're attacking a huge stack of infantry and tanks. You can start weeding out those tanks a little quicker. On the defense, you know, it would just be the 1 through 3. So a 4 would be a normal hit that the defender would choose the casualties. But that is another interesting unit. One thing I'd like to add about kind of the basic core 4 IPC units that you see out here, if you keep them all at the defense 2 and attack 2, you're keeping all the values the same, but what you're buying is the different attributes. You know, the artillery would give you your combined arms. Your cavalry has a movement of 2. Those really don't get bought. The only game I know that you actually buy those in is BBR. China has the option of buying them. Most other games, those cavalry start on the board, and then when they're gone, they're gone. You could do, you know, house rule your way. Your recon, the advantage there would be if you wanted to do the first strike, or some other, you know, bonus for, you know, having a recon unit in your battle. The mech, like I said before, following those tanks, you know, attacking it too, that's huge. That's a good advantage. The infantry themselves, you know, like Global War, if you're doing a paratroop mission, you have to have a paratrooper. You don't have to have a Marine for an amphibious assault, but there's a bonus with those using Marines. So the other aspects that you could use with that, the different values of those infantry based off house rules you are using, or whether it's even game rules. The deluxe game, you have capacity points for transports, so you could carry, you know, technically 3 infantry if you wanted. Well, you can either carry 1 infantry and 1 artillery, or 3 infantry. Well, if you're carrying 3 elite infantry and they're attacking at 2, which they do in that game, that's a huge bonus. You know, you can get 3 at 2 as opposed to 2 at 2, you know, by pairing up a regular infantry with an artillery. So there's different aspects that you can throw into your game, or that's already incorporated into other games, that make this this core group here of units at 4 IPC, in my mind, the most versatile and powerful unit in the game. So go ahead and keep rolling those dice, and hopefully they're under 2.
All right, step forward for your payroll.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you. Get out of here. Move along, move along. Come on. Don't have all day. Thank you, sir. Oh, you almost took 2. All right. There you go. Get out of here. All right, well, that costs a lot more than 4 IPCs. Keep the $1.